Exciting day today. At least for me.
What are you most excited about?
We get to kick it off. We get to practice officially, no restrictions for the most part. We just get to go out and help form and develop our team.
Lorenzo Austin is on the roster right now. Is there any update on his, is he playing for sure? Do we know that, or?
He says he is,
He
but
is.
you know, that again, that's a question for Austin and Coach Sark. Not for me.
At this time, how is the health of the team, and will everyone be able to practice?
Yes, sir.
Seems like with some of the guys you lost, there's some opportunities for guys. Can you kind of talk about some of the guys that might move into bigger roles and whatnot this year on this year's team?
Well, you know, one, CJ averaged 14 points a game last year. CJ scored 24 points and a half before. So with that being said, he has scored points in big games, made baskets, and impacted games in the past. But his role will increase. He won't be a support guy. He'll be one of the guys that will look to shoulder the load. But you know, along with that, Scott Suggs is someone that really has to and will emerge as someone that will help shoulder the load with CJ as well. I have to keep going because this is going to be done by committee. Abdul Gaddy, I think without question is going to have his best year as a Husky by far this year. He's playing really well. He played really well on the foreign tour. I think he's going to do a great job.
Coach, how important is it for you to get more offensive productivity out of front court?
Oh, it's important that we have somebody other than those guys on the perimeter step up and be productive offensively. Now, how that manifests itself, who knows? Whether it's them just crashing the boards on the glass and, you know, scoring off putbacks, they're getting to the foul line, they're scoring on the block. Whatever way it is, we're going to look for more productivity from those guys. And I believe we'll see it also.
Scott and CJ, are they more than just shooters offensively now? And to you, is that how you plan to deploy them? Obviously, they both shoot the three well.
I think so. I think they're pretty complete with the ability to knock down that shot at a high level.
Can you talk a little bit about where Aziz is? I mean, he had the off-season surgery. How long has he been, I mean, what has he been able to do?
I think the big thing with Aziz is he understands our system now. This is his third year. It took him a while to really understand where we wanted him defensively, so I think that's going to help. He was able to, you know, shoot a lot of free throws with his good hand, you know, and it even, we'll see, time will tell, but it even helped with his form quite a bit because, you know, his hand, his offhand, guide hand was not getting in the way of his shot because he shot a lot of form free throw shooting. But he stayed in pretty good condition. He did not lose his conditioning throughout sitting out because of his injury.
Is he 100%?
Yeah.
Lorenzo, because of the way things went down last year, do you stress to your kids how important November and December are in the eyes of the committee attorney, or do you even need to bring that stuff up?
We haven't really talked about that yet. You know, that could be something we talk about, but like every year, softy, how good can we get today in this drill? How good can we get in this practice? And I think there is an understanding that we have to be playing at a high level early because the toughest part of our non-conference schedule is probably early.
Do you feel like your schedule's strong enough for those 2 months to have those chances?
Our schedule, sometimes when people don't see a certain high-profile name, they may think, well, it's not that tough. Our schedule is extremely tough. There's Colorado States and Nevadas and the St. Louis's of the world that maybe some others don't hold in real high esteem. We do. We understand they have a lot of talent coming back, and those are teams that are going to do very well. So, along with the tournament that we're in, playing against UConn, I think our schedule is extremely competitive, strong, and will help us at the end of the year.
Coach, having had the practices that you had going into the summer and playing on the tour, how different is practice from day one as it would be in other years since you've already kind of been through it a little bit a couple of weeks ago?
We just have so much more of an understanding right now of what we want to do. I don't know how well we would do, but I think if we had to go play a game tonight, we'd be functional to go do that, and never have felt like that at this time of the year before our first practice. And obviously that's due to the summer, being able to work with your guys a little bit, a couple hours a week, and the foreign tour.
How did the new offense work on the Europe trip? And what did you learn from that you're gonna have to refine in these coming weeks?
I thought it worked fine. You know, we were working our way through it. We only practiced for 10 days in preparation for it, but the main thing about it is sometimes when you change your offense or change certain things you want to do within your team, guys fight it. Our guys have embraced it, and I think that's a really important piece in this whole thing. I think they see where they can be effective individually and collectively as a team by doing this.
Lorenzo, what is Coach Fortier's role? Is he still a coach? Does he get to coach during the week of practice?
Right now he's on the floor coaching with our team. He's on the floor, and Coach Shaw kind of does the recruiting part of it.
Okay, so all the
For right
coaches
now.
all the coaches you have on staff, can they all technically coach?
No, all of them but one.
Okay. And then is that somebody has to be designated as that guy, or can
Yes,
that
sir.
change?
Yeah, you designate it, and if there's need for a change, then we can do that at a later time.
Coach, since you've been here, you've just always had a guy or two with a real strong personality. I don't see that strong personality guy this year, like an Isaiah, or like a Will, or like a Nate, or like a Tony. Where's your leadership gonna come from? Is it a concern?
You think you have to have a really strong personality to be a good leader?
Well, that's what
I've seen guys, I always bring up Maurice Cheeks, who eventually was a head coach in the NBA, who I was on the court with him several times. I never heard him say a word, but he had Dr. J on his team, and I was a pretty good leader, I guess. But he was a point guard, and somehow those guys responded to him. And, we don't have a lot of, how should I say, charismatic guys out there on the floor, but I think we have some quiet assassins on our team that are going to do just fine.
Coach, when's the last time you had 3 guards that have been together 4 years? You know, or have you ever had that where you got, you know, that much experience together?
The closest was 3, you know, with Brandon, Will, and Nate, those guys. Those guys were together for 3 years, but haven't had any for 4.
What's the benefit?
You could make an argument that these guys haven't been for 4 either, and that Scott redshirted last year.
Right.
But I know what you're saying. The benefit is when guys play together that long, not only do they really understand your system, but they understand each other. You know, there are a lot of unverbalized signals that go on out there when those guys are playing. You know, you watch Abdul and CJ, a lot of times Abdul sees the floor, but it seems like he hits CJ on a back door more than anyone else. You know, those guys are roommates, they've been teammates, they know each other really well. Scott, same way. You just have a certain feel for where that guy's going because you played with him so much. Not only during our season, but those guys play a ton of pickup in the off season together, so they really know each other well.
What do you expect from Andrews this year?
Andrew's a little pit bull, and you talk about that personality. He's got one of those personalities. He just hadn't been out there yet for everyone to see, but you know, he's a guy that's not really intimidated by any situation.
Coach, can you talk about the process of hiring Coach Jackson, Coach Smith, and your plan for how they'll be integrated within the staff?
Coach Jackson is a guy that I've talked to before about coming on with Washington. When we first took the job here, he's one of the guys we talked to. But he never felt it was the right time for him to leave. But we've had conversations about a lot of different things over the years. And this particular time there was an opening, and he felt at this particular time, if there was ever a time to make a change, this would be it. So he did it. And Lamont Smith, again, started out with me at St. Louis as a kind of like a grad assistant type guy. And went from there and went on to St. Mary's, Santa Clara, and then to Arizona State within our conference, and has done a marvelous job in his position, and now a position open again here, and thought he was experienced now at the point in what he was doing, as well as in this conference, recruiting in this conference, and what it took and coaching, that we would bring him on. Coach Jackson, boy, it's almost like having a guru consultant on your staff that has a wealth of experience, a wealth of knowledge, but he's right there with you every day in your staff meetings, right there on the bench with you in practices. It's a great luxury to have, him at being a former head coach. Lamont Smith, I think, along with Coach Jackson, I think both of those guys would be fantastic recruiters. They're really good with people. They're guys with integrity, guys that you can trust. I think they'll do a great job that way.
And their roles on the bench, how do you see them fitting in?
Lamont was a great defensive player, and you know, he knows our defensive system backwards and forwards because he was with us in the beginning. So he'll do a lot paying attention, close attention to our defense. And he'll also work with the guards. Brad probably work more with the bigs, Coach Fortier, and you know, probably help out offensively a lot, just in overall program operations.
In talking to him, he said he has a pretty solid foundation with the high post.
Yeah.
Was that another added benefit from your
Absolutely,
perspective?
absolutely. You know, it's something. As we looked at our personnel in the spring, and every spring, I began to start evaluating right away. Okay, how can we get better next year? How can we improve? And one of the things I thought was, with our personnel and for the future, that we would run the high post, but we would run it exclusively as a foundation. Before, we'd run our motion, and we tried to, you know, use the high post as a complement to that. Well, it's hard to do because we didn't get very good at it. Well, we decided we're going to pay total attention to this and make this our core offense. And when that decision was made, I called Jim Herrick, who I worked for at UCLA, when Coach ran practices, he ran them exactly the way John Wooden did it. Exactly, because he studied him for so long. And Coach spent a few days with us, with the staff, and went over all the details and the nuances of the high post offense. And we were all on the same page with it, so we all understood exactly what we wanted. Well, when we made a change, and Coach Jackson, now whether we were running the high post or not, we still would have wanted Brad to come join us. But it is true that he also is very familiar with that offense. So it's someone else that has some familiarity with it.
In terms of the high post offense, how does that change Abdul's responsibilities? And even for Abdul, for CJ, and for just all of your sort of like main guys, how does that change from what they used to do?
For Abdul, it makes him much more of a decision maker, and it puts much more pressure on him to be a good decision maker. If you run the high post offense and you don't have anyone at the top, at the helm, that makes good decisions, it makes it very difficult because you have to know when to pull the ball out. We're going to push that ball the same as we've always pushed it, but when it's not there, someone has to take charge and make sure we're in the right spots and make sure that ball is distributed the right way. And I think that's a great, great strength of Abdul's. And I think as a result, he's going to really be able to define himself as a point guard. And you'll really be able to see why he is such a good point guard. I think with the other guys, the offense allows you to know exactly where you're going to get your shots from all the time. Now, your shots will come from different areas, but you know exactly where those come from, and everyone else knows that, and there just aren't any surprises.
So then, who are you putting at the high post?
If I could just, and you didn't interrupt me, you thought I was done.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was just going to add that when you know exactly where your shots are coming from all the time, you can prepare mentally 1 or 2 seconds beforehand. I think you shoot higher field goal percentage. I think you shoot with more confidence. All of the bigs will be in the high post offense. The way we run it, you run it with a 2-guard front, then you have 2 up top and 3 across the foul line, 2 forwards and a center. If you run it that way, you always have 1 guy at the high post. We run it with a 1-guard front. So it's 1 guard up front, 4 across, 2 wings, 2 posts. And the bigs, they are always in those post positions. You can, when we get to know it really well, sometimes you can invert and put a guard in those post positions. So anyone can be there.
Who's the best team in this conference? Your mind.
How can you just ask me that and I can just say that right now? I can't just say
I
that.
asked you last year and you had it right like that.
Who did I have?
I don't remember.
Who won? No. Who was picked to win the league last year?
UCLA.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that was hands down in the beginning of the year.
That's your team this year, yeah? You wanna go with
I don't know. I really don't. Arizona could be really good. Stanford won the NIT last year. They have almost everybody back. USC is going to be one of the most improved teams in this conference. So it's too hard for me. You guys are better at that than me anyway.
Lorenzo, before you told the players that you were implementing the high post offense, do you think they understood the history behind it and the kind of success Coach Wood had?
No. I don't think they still understand.
Have you educated them on it since?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit we have.
I know you talk every off season about looking and trying to improve and making this choice. When did you start leaning towards going high post all the way as opposed to, okay, maybe we still need to look at how things go, maybe first couple practices, see how maybe they react to it?
Chris always wanted to do it. Our first year we ran it, but I didn't think we had personnel to do it. And so we stayed away from it. And then we ran our motion. We were so successful with that we stuck with that. And we brought it back a little bit in 09 because of John, and 10 because of Quincy. We brought it back. But we didn't work on it enough for it to be really, really effective. Well, again, looking at our personnel, looking at offensively, down the stretch, I thought we thought too much at times because we were calling sets a lot. We're going to run this, we're going to run that. And I thought we got bogged down at times down the stretch in games. And I don't like, everyone does it differently. Coaches have been highly successful doing it their way, but I still don't like every time down someone looking over at the bench wanting to know what we're running. I prefer guys to all be on the same page but still have the freedom to just play basketball. And the high post offense allows you to do that. You have a structure, yes. There are many different components to it and different ways that you can be effective, but you drill it and drill it and drill it so guys know kind of where they can get their money, so to speak. But yet, there are many different options. There are 13 options in the high post without us calling one of them, based on a read. Read and react. So guys just get to play out of it. Same way, but yet, there's still more to it than just penetrate and kick like we've done so many years.
If you
So,
had, sorry.
spring is when I decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. Late spring is probably when I said, all right, this is where we're going to do this. We got to get prepared to coach it because we're going to be working with our guys in the summer. So that decision was made.
But did you just not think that with the personnel that you had, especially with Terrence and Tony providing a lot of the scoring, did you just feel like it just wasn't going to be a good fit maybe when you looked at it a year ago?
The beginning of that season, Tony Roden, Terrence Ross, C.J. Wilcox, Abdul Gaddy, and Scott Suggs. Those guys, guard-wise, that's pretty good. So there was no reason at that time, I didn't think we could do it. And I didn't know if we had the personnel for those guys that would be making the plays at the high post. if we could do it then also. So that played a part in it. But the season goes on, there's no Scott. And sometimes there's no CJ. So it's a whole different dynamic now, but it's too late to change midstream with what we're doing.
If you have a read and react type of an offense, is it fair to, because guys don't have years in this, that early on that there will be some struggles, that there will be some miscommunication, that I thought you were going to zing and then you zagged, and maybe you won't average as many points as you did last year?
I can't say that because of the foreign tour. The foreign tour allowed us to play 6 games. It allowed us to practice 10 times. It allowed us to do some things to where we're a little bit more ahead of the curve. However, with this offense, it will be much better in January than it is now. And we run it again the following year. Guys will know it just like that. And I'll have to say, you know, this is something that, as we looked ahead, players that could potentially come in here, we thought it was something that fit the immediate picture and long-term picture, something that we would not have to change every year. So if we're going to make an adjustment, make something that's going to go out long-term.
What have you seen from Sean Kemp in the offseason?
Sorry?
What have you seen out of Sean Kemp in the offseason?
Sean has made an improvement. Sean is, first of all, in better condition than he was after sitting out 2 years at this time last year. Better understanding for what we're trying to do. His effort is sustained for longer periods of time, and I think he's gaining more confidence and he's getting stronger. So we've seen some improvement in Sean.
Does the high post kind of fit in with his offensive game?
Yeah, we think so. Yeah.
Coach, one of the most intriguing guys on your roster is probably Jannard Giroux. We haven't seen much of him. Can you talk about maybe floor and ceiling, where he's at now? How good can he be? And, you know, what's reasonable expectations from him?
It's interesting. When players go out and play, their athleticism can be handcuffed if they're not sure where they're supposed to go. They don't move as quick because they're not sure. He has a much better feel for where he's supposed to go, especially on the defensive end, so he looks quicker now. He looks more athletic. He's not a huge, big-time athlete in terms of jumping up vertically off the floor, and he doesn't possess outstanding quickness, but still at 6'10" with a 7'4" wingspan, he's moving his feet a lot quicker now, and he's able to make more plays. He's going to be a freshman this year, and we think that due to his redshirt year, he made big strides, and when it finally clicks from a 6'3" guy going to a 6'10" guy and adjusting to that body and the coordination of it all, when all that catches up, we think he's going to be a really good basketball player.
How far away is that? Any idea?
No.
Getting close?
It's always getting closer. But, you know, I'm talking about the time to where he's an all-conference type player. We don't know when that's going to happen, but pretty confident that it'll happen. Again, you talk about him and Andrew. Those guys are like freshmen, like they were in the 2012 class. So we got 2 players we think that are coming in this year that would be just as good as anybody would have taken. We'd have taken somebody.
Lorenzo,
Well,
besides integrating the new offense, what's your biggest concern about this team? Something that you're kind of intrigued, you know, we'll see how they handle this, handle that. And is there a concern about this team that you've got? Curious to see how something plays out, or?
I don't know as much of a concern, but anxious to see 2 minutes left in the game, who's going to take over. We have some ideas, there's some candidates, but who is it going to be in a month when we start playing? But that's not a concern, it's just anxious. Who is it going to be? We have some candidates. Which one? Or which few?
Coach, were you able to experiment with Aziz and Sean or at the same time overseas?
Yeah, those guys they can play together just fine. Yeah, especially with what we're doing here offensively. They can play. It would be more on Sean. You have to be able to guard, compliment to Richard Kuksix from Arizona State. If you've ever seen him, he's 6'6", can shoot the lights out, and he's running all over the place. Some big guys can't play against him. So we always say that 4-man has to be able to guard Kuksix. you know, and that determines if you can play with another big guy. If you can't, then you can only play one at a time. Can't do it unless you play zone.
A name that hasn't been mentioned is Martin. How is he coming along? Where is his progress?
Martin is stronger. We all know how athletic he is. I think he has a better understanding of our system as well. So, you know, he's one of the guys that's going to be competing for minutes at that 4 spot.
And also,
At that other big spot, I should say.
The guys like CJ and Abdul, even Aziz a little bit, what do you think last spring, if there's any motivation or carryover from that whole experience of getting left out after winning a conference title? Do you think that'll have a factor at all this season?
I sense our team has a quiet chip on their shoulder a little bit. And I think that would have something to do with it. You're also talking about Abdul and Scott being seniors, and you always come in wanting to conquer the world as a senior because it's your last chance, your last stab at it.
Have you left that in the past? Did you talk about the learning lessons from that experience for those guys?
No, we're totally dialed into this season. That was a different season. We moved on.
Seems like it's kind of a rare unit in that you don't have any, you know, ballyhoo true freshmen coming in that, you know, recruited guys and stuff like that. Is it kind of strange to look at your team, what's happened, some of the guys that you plan on bringing in didn't come in? Is it a different team that way, that you don't have these new guys that are immediately going to jump in?
Well, there was really only one guy, you know, that was supposed to be here that's not here. Everyone else is who we anticipated, you know, coming back. But it is a close-knit group that, and it was mentioned about being together for 3 years. You know, these guys, some of them have been together for a while, and I think that helps, and that brings a unique quality to this team. And that's why I continue to say this is a team, and that is not referencing any other team that we've ever had. But it's more just isolating this team, that this is a special team in that regard, because we've been here 11 years, and take any of the other 10 teams, there have not been many that are just more close-knit and has better chemistry than this team. We've had teams that have been more talented and that have been better, but I'm comparing this not with last year's team, but the other 10 that we've had. This team, I think, is set apart a little more just because it really is a team.
We gotta get going upstairs. Todd, you have one question, and if you got a follow-up question, Coach can take it outside afterwards.
you've also, since the end of last year, you talked about getting back to playing defense the way you guys play it. What does that mean? How do you do that? And how can you emphasize that now with all this new installation of an offense as well?
It's more of a sense of urgency from day one, just making sure we really, really cover the fundamentals of defense. And we spent a lot of time doing that early in our preseason individual workouts, just individual techniques, staying in front of the basketball, help side defense, making sure we don't lose sight of the ball and the man. A lot of those fundamentals that we're really, really attacking and trying to create a situation that we know that that's what's going to butter our bread. And if we don't do it, we can forget it.
Why did you get away from
We're
that?
not good enough to go out there and not play defense.
Why did the team end up away from that kind of style defensively last year?
I think last year, from day one, we didn't get it. We went at a slower pace. We just didn't get it last year. And I think we had a team in 2007 that just didn't get it. Sometimes it takes a team to be together that second year to get it. And in 2007, that team wasn't together that second year to get it. It was a younger team. Every now and then you look at programs across the country, sometimes their personnel just doesn't quite get over the hump to be what you need them to be. And I'm talking about some championship teams. It's just that certain years, that part of it just didn't match.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Good seeing all of you.